Welcome back to Interview Ninja Step 56. We're going to talk a bit about psychology, Gestalt psychology, but in particular the Gestalt Cycle and how it helps you identify mental blocks. We're also going to discuss emotional intelligence and how you develop your intelligences. Then becoming conscious of your inner thoughts and indeed the thought paths as your thoughts go through your mind. And finally, we'll link that to raising awareness of your situation and how that fits as the first part of a Gestalt cycle.
So, what's it called?
We'll go onto YouTube, Gestalt Cycle.
How did
Gestalt cycle. And just do a search. There, and do that
top one?
Yeah.
The Gestalt Cycle.
But put it up on the big screen.
Is something we're experiencing all the time. Whatever we're up to, as long as we're awake, we are on one part of the cycle. It starts with a sensation, a feeling in our bodies, like hunger or needing the loo, like Bruce here.
That's very weird.
The second stage of the cycle is awareness, when we become aware of the sensation. You become aware of a need to do something. The third stage is mobilization. This is when you commit to taking care of the need and prepare to take action. For example, think about what you need to do in order to get to the toilet. The fourth stage is when you take action. You do what is necessary in order to meet your need. In Bruce's case, he excuses himself and walks to the loo and gets ready to... Oh, Bruce! The fifth stage, final contact, when you meet your need. And we all know what Bruce needed. Satisfaction, the sixth stage. Satisfaction that your need has been met. Stage 7 is withdrawal. This is letting go to allow for a new sensation to arise. Another Gestalt cycle. But of course, we have many needs happening.
Our thoughts and feelings are different aspects of our mental processes. Sometimes a thought causes a feeling, and other times a feeling triggers a thought process. To make the most of our natural emotional intelligence, we need to develop EI by raising self-awareness and learning emotional soft skills. Only in that way can you actually develop your emotional intelligence. To understand what goes on inside our head, we need to turn to psychology. I'm starting in this step with one aspect called the Gestalt Cycle, of a much wider approach using Gestalt psychology. I've abbreviated that to GP. GP is very practical and an easy path to learn and apply, and it's your first baby steps really into thinking about your thought paths and processes. Learning is about becoming aware, analysing, understanding by grasping what the concepts are, and then developing that new thing that you have learned through practice. The Gestalt cycle is all about the blocks to that natural process of become aware, analyze, understand, and develop. So Gestalt cycle is a tool that you can use to help you understand and analyze your thought paths.
At the same time. For example, although Bruce is hungry, he also wants to hear the end of Shirley's story. Not only that, he's got an email he really needs to be responding to. And sometimes one cycle can interrupt another. Now I want to talk to you about the blocks, and here's where it gets really interesting. When we have a need, we can often create a block that will stop us from fulfilling our need, completing the cycle. The first block is the trickiest one to talk about because it happens so early on in the cycle that the person experiencing the block will never become aware of the need. The need is out of their awareness.
The sensation to awareness stage is more useful as a psychiatry tool for people with compulsive behavior. They do things without an understanding of why they're doing them. So really, it's used by psychiatrists and psychologists to help people to become just normal. This course, the Institute of Practical Learning Interview Ninja course, and the Get the Job You Want course, are more about helping you go from average to good, good to great, and great to excellent. It is the following stages, from awareness right through to completion, that we need to focus on, because we are aware already. This is a simplification, of course, because everything we do is driven by our subconscious, and over-analysis of what is meant by sensation is counterproductive. It's what's called analysis paralysis. It's best to keep our focus on what we can change, because first and foremost, this is a practical course to help you get what you want out of life.
This is called desensitization and can often occur for people who have suffered abuse in their childhood. For example, someone shouts at you and you feel nothing. Another block is deflection. This occurs after awareness and is when we bat away the need. For example, someone shouts at you, and rather than acknowledging your shame or anger or perhaps sadness, you make a little joke. Another block is introjection. This is all of the shoulds and shouldn'ts we've swallowed over the...
Okay. These next next 4 words are psychiatrists' words, all right? It's typical of science. They overcomplicate.
Yeah.
That they are the words themselves block the understanding, because a word like introjection is a word that
is unnecessary.
Well, it's a word, but it's not a very good description of anything. It doesn't communicate anything at all, other than it's a word they've decided, Gestalt therapists have decided to use. And in a way, it's jargon, which blocks proper or Joe Public from understanding what's going on. And this stuff is mostly for psychiatrists and psychotherapists, or people teaching Gestalt psychotherapy, right? And so academics love to introduce complex words, because then you have to go on the course and also you come out afterwards and you spout the words and it makes you sound clever. Okay, so they're not good words, the next 3 or 4. So you're going to have to try and find better words in your own mind for what would you call a block between you want to do something, but something stops you doing it. Something interferes with it. So these, as I say, the block there and the block there and the block there is the same way. They're mumbo-jumbo jargon words, but the significant point is when you are working with someone, trying to help them, you need a different word for each type of block, because you can't just call them all blocks. It's what type of block is that person experiencing. That's the one that person needs to do something about, which is why they've invented these words, because as far as they're concerned, there wasn't a word to describe for that.
Just out of interest, have you learned all of these words, the psychotherapy ones?
Yeah, I mean, I've been through all this and I've used this, and when I've been counseling people and stuff like that, this is all part of the armory of someone who's being a mentor or a counselor.
So you use the words introjection?
I don't use them. I don't use them. I'm aware of them, but again, to me, they're level 3. And they get in the way, which is why I'm interrupting. Is they get in the way of you understanding the vital nature of conceiving and wanting to do something, like New Year's resolutions, not revolutions, New Year's resolutions, Will this discussion be on camera or not?
Yes.
Good. Okay. Yeah, when people make New Year's resolutions and they generally don't come to anything
Yes.
because there's various blocks. Yeah. So a New Year's resolution would start with I feel fat. You know,
Yeah.
I need to do something about it. Here's my New Year's resolution here. And then somewhere between awareness and action, it starts to go wrong.
Mobilization is you preparing yourself to take the action.
Mm-hmm. And then it's like getting your ducks in a row to take the action.
Yes. So then action is when you actually do it.
Yes.
And final contact is when
it's when you're doing it.
Yeah.
And completing it. Okay. And the final contact is that those sequence of actions.
Yeah.
This is all progression.
This is really good.
Sequence of actions as you go round until you've actually lost that kilogram of weight.
So do you find that you use this for critical thinking? Do you
Totally.
Yeah. Because this seems to me like I break down what I'm doing into this 7 cycles, see where my blocks are, and
yes. We all learn our behaviors through observation and practice. It's called experiential learning. If you get a chance, just watch a baby of 6 months old and see how they observe their environment around them. At that stage, they don't have control of their movements, but as they get a little bit older, they can start controlling their movements and trying to learn from experience. For example, using a spoon to eat. At the beginning, they're shoving food into their eye or their ear, and those are not such good experiences, and they learn from them, and they change the way they behave, and gradually they get quite good at getting the food from the plate into their mouth. Now that whole process goes on consistently for the early years of your life. But what it doesn't do is teach you really good adult skills, and especially the soft skills or behavioral skills you're going to need in business and, for example, going for an interview. So to do that, to get to that level, you need some good tools. And Gestalt Cycle is a good tool. The sequence is the same for developing all 4 natural intelligences: emotional, social, applied functional, and even academic, and getting personal benefit from the potential within you. So it's understand, knowing what tool to use, and practice. And the whole point of the Institute of Practical Learning organization courses is to equip you with the tools you need to go from good to great and from great to excellent. You can find some quite good mental tools out there on the web, and we've leveraged all the good ones that we can find to bring them to your attention, like this Gestalt Cycle thing, for example. But in other cases, we found it necessary to invent tools, or what we call mental models. And we go into that in quite a lot of detail in the Get the Job You Want course. So I highly recommend you, if you want to know about mental tools that you can use to analyze your thought processes and optimize them, then make sure that in parallel with this course, you're also covering the Get the Job You Want course. And together, by studying those 2 courses in parallel with each other, you will achieve the level of growth which, quite honestly, for the effort you're putting in, you thoroughly deserve. That's the purpose of doing this.
Okay, this is good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
I approve.
And when you do this in parallel with Maslow's triangle of motivation, you can see why between having awareness of something and being motivated to do it, there's another thought process of, well, I'm aware of it, but is it important enough for me to do?
Actually, okay.
Do I need to do it because it's right down there to survive or pay my rent or this, or am I doing it because I have a vision of what I want to do? And where does that vision of what I want to do fit in proportion to my more basic needs? or my ego needs, or my social needs, or my relationship needs, and those sorts of, what are all those needs? How can you possibly have purposeful action and conscious action if you're not even aware of what your own needs are, let alone your wants?
Learning about Gestalt Cycle is just one tool in the overall intention of this course. I am reminding Corbin that the process of self-empowerment and skills for life involves learning all sorts of things. In the next minute or two, in fact in step 57, I go on to list a few of them. But the real point is, understanding your inner thoughts takes time. Don't rush at it. Psychologists call it introspection, and it's a really, really valuable soft skill. And once you start having an attitude of analysing your own thought paths, you are well and truly on a journey to self-empowerment, because every experience you have can potentially be experiential learning, and you will get back onto that growth process that you had from when you were a baby and grew up right through up to 10, 11, 12 years old before the system took over and started telling you what you needed to know and how you needed to behave. Now, let's hope you're back on track, and those are decisions you are going to make. And step 57 will help you.